You're watching VNews Bulletin, and here come our top stories.
Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng meets outstanding young scientists. Vietnam Economic Forum takes place in the United Kingdom. Workshop 6 ways to manage and preserve UNESCO-recognized Chiang An complex.
On September 11th, Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng attended a get-together with 70 prominent scientists who have outstanding researches, scientific products applied in reality, or internationally acclaimed projects.
The function was seen as a chance to recognize and praise the great contributions of young scientists to the country's development and science in particular. It also encouraged them to uphold their passion, sense of initiative and creativity in research and bring scientific and technological advances into production so as to improve productivity and sharpen the economy's competitive edge. At the get-together, young scientists informed the Prime Minister about their study results which have been carried out and applied in reality. They also reported difficulties in research activities and requested the government to issue proper policies to facilitate scientific and technological development and enable them to contribute further to the country's development. The young scientists urged the party and state to create all favorable conditions for them to take part in intensive and extensive training courses and exchange views with their fellow colleagues around the world.
The 36th National Assembly of the ASEAN Interparliamentary Assembly concluded in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia on September 11th after convening its second plenary session. More details coming up next.
Speaker of the Malaysian House of Representatives, Amin Haji Mulia, chair of IPAR 36, affirmed that the event was successful with the active participation of all delegates from IPAR member and observer nations. He expressed his belief that the results of the General Assembly would contribute greatly to the realization of overall goals of the ASEAN community. Issues discussed and translated into resolutions looked directly at matters of great interest, such as narrowing the development gaps, promoting higher education, and strengthening the ASEAN community through good governance. Delegates also exchanged views on issues of mutual concern, including areas of potential cooperation with parliamentarians from observer countries. At the closing ceremony, heads of delegations signed the IPAR 36 joint communique.
The Vietnamese government will create optimal conditions for British businesses to strengthen cooperation activities and make sustainable investments in the country. Deputy Prime Minister Vũ Văn Ninh made the pledge at the Vietnam Economic Forum in London.
Deputy Prime Minister Ninh also told the forum Vietnam is striving to finalize its market economic institutions, change its growth model, and improve its competitive edge. The country is targeting trade values of $350 billion this year and $600 billion in 2020. Hailing Vietnam's reform efforts to boost socio-economic development, Prince Andrew, Duke of York, said the UK encourages its businesses to invest in Vietnam while welcoming those from the Southeast Asian nation to run business in his country. The UK is now Vietnam's leading EU partner in terms of investment, trade and education. The country also ranks 15th among 105 countries and territories investing in Vietnam with a total capital of $4.5 billion. The forum brings opportunities for the two sides' businesses to increase their sharing of information.
If you look at the ASEAN region, the British have exported more to Vietnam in the last few years than they have to other countries. So there's a real focus on Vietnam and trade with Vietnam. And I'm really delighted that ease of doing business with Vietnam is climbing up the rankings every year. It's getting better and better.
We want to seek UK partners in area of publication and training, particularly online training. The event took place at a time when Vietnam and the UK are celebrating the 5 years of setting up their strategic partnership. It is expected to become an important channel to help UK businesses to have a better understanding of the Vietnamese business and investment environment.
The U.S. Department of Commerce has announced its final decision on the results of its non-administrative review for anti-dumping duties on frozen shrimp imported from Vietnam between February 1, 2013 to January 31, 2014.
Accordingly, the average anti-dumping tariff rate plummeted from 6.37% in the previous review to the current 0.91%. The general anti-dumping tariff rate applied to the country's sector was 25.4%, dropping 0.36% from the previous review's rate. One of the key elements to help reduce the anti-dumping rate for Vietnamese products was that the U.S. Department of Commerce took reasonable data from Bangladesh, India, and Indonesia as benchmark countries in calculating the rate. The Vietnam Association of Seafood Exporters and Producers predicted with the new results of the 9th review, Vietnam's shrimp exports to the U.S. in the last months of 2015 will prosper after experiencing a constant drop of over 50% in the first 8 months of this year. During the months to August, Vietnamese shrimp exports to the U.S. earned $370 million. The U.S. is also Vietnam's biggest shrimp import market, accounting for over 20% of the sector's density. In 2014, shrimp exports to the U.S. exceeded $1 billion.
A series of 3 exhibitions on sports industries are ongoing at the Hanoi International Exhibition Center, bringing together more than 100 businesses in this field. Our reporters will bring you more details.
The 3-day events are the Vietnam-Japan Supporting Industries Exhibition, Vietnam Manufacturing Expo, and the Industrial Component and Subcontracting Vietnam. This year's event acts as a bridge for industrial manufacturers from Vietnam, Japan, the Republic of Korea, Thailand, and India to seek new partners, business partnerships, and investment opportunities. Katsuro Naga from the Japanese Embassy in Vietnam said there are about 1,500 Japanese enterprises in Vietnam, half of which are currently operating in the manufacturing sector and were only able to achieve 33% of local content, which is supplied by Japanese firms last year. Despite the growing interest of Japanese investors in Vietnam, they are struggling to find a stable supply of materials and components for production in the local market. In 2018, Vietnam will eliminate 97% of tariffs as committed to the ASEAN Goods and Trade Agreement, which will help it reel in investment. However, Vietnamese firms will face a fierce competition with neighboring producers offering cheaper products.
Vietjet Air has announced the launch of its latest domestic routes connecting the Central Highlands city of Pleiku with Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. The 2 new routes will debut on October 1st.
Vietjet said the new routes are expected to boost travel between the Central Highlands locality and Vietnam's 2 most dynamic and developed cities as well as neighboring regions. In addition to the new routes, the airline has launched a massive promotional campaign on all domestic and international routes from Vietnam to Thailand, Singapore, the Republic of Korea, and Myanmar to meet the surge in demand for air travel before, during, and after traditional Lunar New Year. The airline will also increase the frequency of high-demand routes, such as routes between Ho Chi Minh City and tourist hotspots in central Vietnam, Hue and Da Nang. This increase in services aims to facilitate passengers' travel plans for tourism, business, and/or family reunions during what is considered peak season for air travel in Vietnam, the carrier said.
Moving on to other news, some 30 pictures and 15 panels of Hanoi ancient quarters culture and daily life are on display at an exhibition in Paris. Join us to take a look.
Memories of familiar old streets with old men reading newspapers, food vendors, and young women in the long traditional dress were brought back to people who once lived in Hanoi. This is the first exhibition on the old Hanoi held in France, Vietnamese-French painter Nam Trần said, praising the wonderful pictures and photos depicting a charming Hanoi. Attending the exhibition, visitors get a deeper understanding of Hanoi's ancient streets, cultural values, and efforts to preserve its heritages. I like the exhibition as pictures and panels are great, reminding me of my delightful visit to Hanoi, the 1,000-year-old city that I admire. This is a wonderful exhibition with pictures of old and modern Hanoi that impress all visitors, even those who have never been to the city. The free exhibition will run until September 19th.
Authorities in the northern province of Ninh Bình have consulted experts about efficient efforts to manage and preserve the local Chang'an complex.
At the workshop on September 10th, participants said the complex draws tourists with its scenic beauty and historical values, and it has been home to proof of human adaptation to environmental changes since the prehistoric age. Well-managed excavation and exhibition plans could further promote these values. They said besides policies harmonizing conservation and development, forming a strong connection among Ninh Bình authorities, residents and tourists is necessary for the site's protection. The Chang'an complex was recognized by UNESCO as a Cultural and Natural World Heritage Site in 2014. In UNESCO words, Chang'an is the resplendent complex of limestone karst peaks, which are permitted with valleys, including submerged ones, and surrounded by steep, almost vertical cliffs, nestling on the southern shore of the Red River Delta. It's home to around 500 floral species, 7 tree species of birds, and 41 species of other animals, and has a diverse ecosystem with unique geological characteristics.
Mukang Chai based in Golden Light in September as the land welcomes a new bamboo crop season. Travelers to the northern province of Yên Bái during this excellent season are in for a treat with the Mukang Chai Tourist Field Festival on the horizon.
Mukang Chai is one of the most popular destinations in the northwest thanks to the spectacular beauty of the terraced rice fields which have been cultivated by the Hmong people for centuries. The terraces are stunning at any time of year and are visible all over the district, covering an area of more than 2,200 hectares. This year's National Terraced Field Cultural Week takes place with many cultural and sports activities, promoting the nation's heritage and the Hmong ethnic minorities' traditional values. The event is also an opportunity to introduce Mukang Chai's local customs to tourists around the globe.
Mukang Chai has set up 3 rest stops for hikers around the Khao Pha mountain pass and is hyping up preparations for paragliding and other activities in the region.
These days, a visit to Mukang Chai introduces new and diversified cultures from different ethnic groups, while the unique and grandeur landscape leaves even the most experienced traveler awestruck. In recent years, Mukang Chai has transformed itself into a tourism center, drawing in visitors from all over with its colorful and jovial festivities. Moreover, the locals have learned to play to their strengths by providing homestay facilities.
My family's home has already been booked by 26 tourist groups, so we are busy preparing. We have to renovate certain parts of the house, make sure the bed sheets are clean, and prepare fresh cooking ingredients as well.
The festival, which will take place until September 20th, is rich with cultural and traditional activities. Tourists visiting Mukangcha during this special occasion will no doubt find themselves falling in love with both the beautiful land and its wonderful people.
And that has wrapped up our daily bulletin. Thank you for tuning in and goodbye for now.